All right. Well, welcome to episode 3 of the Know Better, Do Better series. Chloe, we are making it happen. People thought that we might just kind of fade off into the sunset, but we have our whole life together. Y'all don't realize that we have lots of topics that we want to tell you about so that you can know better, so that you can do better, and we're not going to stop. So, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today's topic is how to manage windfalls. So whether it's a small windfall like a stimulus check or your tax refund or a small bonus or a gift, up to a life-changing amount of money, enough money to where you could retire someday.
And if you're watching on YouTube, Chloe and I have matching top buns today. I threw mine together. It's a little bit fuzzy, but this is my hair, so I don't care. But we are cute. And if you haven't seen the podcast on YouTube, you should definitely check it out. At the top of every episode, what we like to do is what we call trends, taxes, and tea, where we're giving you the latest trends on how to save more, pay less, or share some current events about what to do with your money. So, Chloe, can you break it down for us today? What are we working with on trends, taxes, and tea?
Yeah, so we're on a streak with tea from the last few weeks. But yeah, I wanted to talk, since we're talking about windfalls this week, I wanted to mention the recent Powerball and Mega Millions. So I'm not sure if you play the lottery, Lauren, but I like to play for fun once the jackpot gets up pretty high. So I bought a ticket for both, and unfortunately I didn't win.
Oh, no, you didn't win. What would you do if you won?
I mean, honestly, I love what I do, so I'd probably continue doing this. I just wouldn't be so stressed out about growing as much. And then I'd probably just, I'd give a lot of it away, to be honest.
Really? Would you travel? That's what I would do. I would definitely put travel at the top of my list.
Yeah, I would definitely travel and enjoy my life a little bit more than I do now, since I wouldn't have to worry about money. But yeah, in all honesty, it's too much for one person to have. So I'd try to help as many people as I could.
Yeah, I would say 731 million it was.
Yes. So the Powerball jackpot was 731 million, and the winning ticket was sold in Maryland on January 20th. And so that was the fourth largest Powerball jackpot in history. And then the Mega Millions jackpot was 1.05 billion.
Jeez.
And it was sold in Michigan on the 22nd of January.
So wait, though, do you really become like an overnight billionaire? Don't you got to give some of that money to Uncle Sam?
Yeah. Really this is like the gross amount. So, right. So of course, there's like the lump sum. You take a lump sum or an annuity, and so the lump sum portion is reduced significantly. And then you have to pay taxes on that. So you end up with about, half, like once you.
Got it. I mean, 500 million, right? That's not nothing to sneeze.
I know. And the funny thing is that there are kind of rumors swirling about in both towns about who won. And it doesn't look like either winner has come forward so far, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. But the lottery winners in Maryland can remain anonymous. There's a few different states in the U.S., including Georgia, where you can remain anonymous, so you will not know if I win.
You're just going to slide off a little bit. We'll know if you win. You're going to buy something that's going to clue me in. You're not buy a lot of things, but I'm going to know.
But in Michigan, though, they don't have that ability to remain anonymous. So somebody's going to have to come forward at some point. I'm sure we'll hear about it on the news.
I hope somebody didn't throw it in the trash by mistake and just missed out on their $1 billion. Oh,
I know.
Yikes. Well, I think that should bring us to our main topic, receiving windfalls, such as a lottery winning. I think when we think about windfalls, what do you think of? Like, there's the kind of like levels, if I think of it, like small windfalls, like little, I wasn't expecting this money. And then there's like medium size, like, ooh, this can really, I could do a little something with this. And then there's like, my great aunt who was a bazillionaire and gave me $1 million and I didn't even know she liked me sort of windfalls. And that can be, really life-changing in the way that I think about it. So why don't we start by talking about the small windfalls?
Yeah. So I think about it in the same category, small, large, but not life-changing, and then large, but life-changing. And so with the small windfalls, it's mostly, some people think of like the stimulus checks that we received as windfalls, tax refunds, or if you receive a small bonus at work, or even just a gift. If it's a gift from, if you get married, sometimes people walk away with $10,000 in cash gifts. So just different things that can happen, on a smaller scale. That they just kind of give you a little bit of a boost, but it's not enough to make a big dent in your savings or debt payments.
Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned already was tax refunds. It is the one every single time of this year. I am always just harping on people that your tax refund is not free money. It is money that you actually earned and you gave to Uncle Sam and he's giving it back to you. So don't treat it like it's free money when it comes. And large refunds are not really the goal. You want to try to have things set up in such a way that you're bringing that money home so that you can use it as part of your monthly cash flow, and then be doing your savings and all your things that you're trying to accomplish goals wise on a regular basis. So big tax refunds, definitely not the goal and not free money. That is not a small windfall, in my opinion. It is money that you're getting back that you need to do something with.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I think some people think of it as a windfall, but yeah, it's money that you basically let the IRS hold for free. For that year. So yeah, if you see yourself getting a lot of large tax refunds from year to year, you might want to change your withholding, and so then that way you could use that money throughout the year.
Yeah. The other thing too, that sometimes you bump into if you're, withholding too much and not bringing home your full paycheck is you end up in credit card debt. And so you're struggling, you're paycheck to paycheck. You're trying to figure out why I can't put any money away for retirement and all these things. And it may be because you're getting that large tax refund. And then all you're using it for is to catch up, which is pay bills, pay interest, pay fees and things like that. When if you had that money on a monthly basis, maybe those things wouldn't exist and your money could stretch a little bit further.
Definitely. But yeah, I think with small windfalls, I think the big thing is just to try to prioritize, the basics. Make sure that you have an emergency fund in place. Do you have credit card debt or any other high interest debt? I'd say those are the things that you want to make sure that you can, use that money towards paying off those things or kind of topping off your savings goals.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. So these are the things that, like I said, are not life-changing, but they can keep you going in the right direction or, give you a little boost in the right way. All right, let's talk about that kind of mid-size goal. So it's like large, but not really life-changing. What kind of ideas do you have as it pertains to that mid-level grade of windfalls?
Yeah, so I think when you think about large but not life changing amounts, some of the things that I think about are like large bonuses. I have clients. I work with tech employees, so some people might receive a signing bonus. It could be $50,000 or $100,000 before taxes. So that's a decent amount of money. But of course, you can't retire off of that. And sometimes people receive settlements. We both speak to people all the time who maybe they're in a lower income level and they might receive a settlement from a car accident or medical malpractice or something like that, like a personal injury type case. And so it might be $100,000 or $150,000. Another thing could be just an inheritance. You could have some random aunt or uncle or grandparent or somebody who leaves you maybe a couple $100,000. So it's it's definitely a decent amount of money. It's something that can really, really help you in a lot of ways, but it's not, you can't just quit your job.
100%. And I think one of the things that's really hard for people is, like you said, that $200,000 is one I see a lot, like somewhere between like 80 and 200,000 is kind of the average of the clients that I see that get inheritances. And they're just like, wow, this is like my whole salary or double my salary. And it feels like so much money. But like you said, in the grand scheme of things, like it's not the money that's going to like let you retire tomorrow, let you not do anything else forever. So, you got to kind of have that mindset in place to say, like, I have a really good chance to do something awesome with this, but it is not game changing in the way that I think it is because I haven't seen this large a sum all at one time before. So what are some of the things people should be thinking about as they, try to navigate a large, but not life changing inheritance or other kind of windfall?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just, especially if you receive one of those settlements, sometimes you might have the option to take an annuity payment or a lump sum, similar to like lottery winners. And so in those cases, just think about your options and kind of weigh your options and, get some professional help if you need it to help you figure out, what's the best option for you. And then with any of these, you want to understand the tax consequences. With bonuses, a large percentage of that money is going to be withheld in taxes. And so, even if you get $100,000 bonus, you're not going to see $100,000 come in your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of understanding what those consequences are.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say about that too is that sometimes if your bonus is large enough, you can't even withhold enough for the new bracket that you're going to be in. So not only did they, maybe they withheld like 22% of it, it might be that you bumped up to the whole next tax bracket. So there's going to be additional dollars that you need to set aside. So you think, oh, they took some taxes out. The rest of this is mine. I can YOLO or do whatever I want with it. But you may have additional tax consequences above and beyond that, which is why it makes sense when you get big sets of money like that to invest in a professional, someone who can calculate for you and say, hey, you need to also put this much aside as well so that you don't get caught off guard.
Yeah, and something else that can trip people up with bonuses is what's called a clawback. And so I've seen them, written a couple of different ways, but basically that means that, the company might give you this big signing bonus, but you need to commit to staying with the company for, 1 year or 2 years. And if you leave the company before that time, you have to pay that bonus money back. So that's something that can be a little tricky. And I've seen it, in cases where if you leave or if they fire you.
Or if they fire you. That's one I haven't heard before. I guess that is a good point, though. They're like, you can't stay here, and we give us this money back.
Yeah. So if there is a clawback, you have to be very careful because that technically isn't your money until you've stayed, as long as you're required to stay.
Right. I call that a clapback. I don't know about a clawback. That's a good point, though. The other thing I would say, too, is don't forget about retirement. Maybe you are not saving in the way that you should be saving. And now this big lump sum comes in and you're like, wow, like you said, once again, I'm rich. What am I going to do? And it's like, you can catch up in an area that you're a little bit behind. So don't underestimate the power of, maxing out retirement, one, to lower your tax liability as well, but then also to help you get on track. So.
Yeah. And I think too, going back to the small windfalls, think about it the same way. If you don't have your emergency fund in place, make sure you're topping that off, filling up that bucket. If you have, some credit card debt or high interest debt, make sure you can get those things paid off. And then beyond that, if you still have a lot of money left over, you could look at other debts. It could be, student loans or other savings goals, like saving for a down payment for a house. So just, knowing what your goals are and kind of what you want to accomplish and where you stand financially, I think that helps to make better decisions with the money.
Oh, one thing we didn't talk about that could be a large but not life-changing. And we see this all the time, but I think you see it a little bit more than me because you are the stock option girl. So investment options, talk a little bit about the idea of that being something and how you plan for that.
Yeah, definitely. So with a lot of tech employees that I work with, they receive equity in their company in the form of stock. And so it could be restricted stock units. It could be, stock options. And so we'll link to some show notes about some episodes where we talk about that in more detail, just from articles. But basically it's just equity in your company. And so some people receive that as part of their signing bonus or just as part of their agreement when they start working with their company. So it could be, a couple $100,000 of stock in their company that they receive. And it's, vested over several years. So you have to receive it in little increments over a certain period of time. And then also each year, in addition to or in lieu of a cash bonus, you can also receive equity in your company. So those are like little windfalls as well.
Mm-hmm. And you should not be spending that money like, oh, I know these RSUs getting ready to vest, so I'm going to go ahead and get this Peloton in advance. And, that's not how you should be planning for your stock option, those windfalls. I think sometimes people start to think of it as like additional paycheck and the money just gets absorbed really easily when it should be thought of as like, let me live off of what I know I have, which is my, every 2 weeks or every, month or however you get paid. And then let me look at this as extra and then build a life knowing that this is extra that can help me get where I want to go.
Exactly. And the same thing with stock options, like we said with other types of windfalls, make sure you understand the tax consequences. There are some serious rules around equity compensation depending on the type. So you want to make sure that you're working with a professional, ideally a financial planner and a CPA who can help you make good decisions.
Yes. All good, good, good advice. I hope you guys are taking notes, writing this down, take a picture, listen to it all over again. Either way, I don't care. You got to make sure you get this information though. All right. Last but not least, large and life changing. So large and life changing are things like inheritances, settlements. So like you said, we talked about car accidents, medical malpractice and all those sorts of things. IPOs is one that does a lot to make people overnight millionaires. So you've been sitting and waiting patiently. You've been with this company for quite a while. You've you've vested quite a bit of stock, and then they finally go public, and overnight you become a millionaire. The kind of money that might be enough for you to retire today if you do it right. What do we need to be thinking about, Chloe?
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest thing, is understand what you're receiving. In some cases, or I think in most cases, it'll probably be cash. If it is, if it's a settlement or just depending on the type of the type of windfall that you receive. But you could also receive stock. For the IPO, you'll have stock. You might have different types of investments. If it's an inheritance, you could have some real estate. You could have different brokerage accounts or retirement accounts. So understanding, exactly what you're receiving is important because, once again, taxes. Taxes are
Uncle Sam is going to get his, right?
Yes. So before you start just cashing stuff out, that's a mistake that we see people make a lot is, they might receive a nice inheritance, but then they go cash out a retirement account because they don't understand it's a retirement account. And then next thing you know, you've pushed yourself in a super high tax bracket. You paid a lot of unnecessary taxes. So yeah, just I think that's the first step.
Yeah, I would say something else that's really important is understanding if this is going to be life-changing money, the kind of money that's going to allow you to retire, to really get clear on what your monthly expenses are and how much you need to live for the rest of your life. Because it's easy to be like, oh, like this is more money than I've ever seen. I'm going to never have to do anything again. It may be true, but if you live a lifestyle that is above your means, you can start to dwindle that money down really quickly. And then, maybe you're 30 and you get this sum or you get this windfall, and then you're 60 and now you're out of money, and that's retirement age like everybody else. And instead of starting to live off what you save, you've actually diminished everything that you saved at that point. So you really need to do some calculations and understand what you need to live for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and the key here is discipline, discipline, discipline. We all know about the athletes and just all these people who get these, this big money, whether it's in salaries or, bonuses. And then next thing you know, a few years later, they're broke. You hear about these lottery winners, same thing. They get these big sums of money and they should be able to like build generational wealth with this money, like essentially. But a lot of times they're completely broke several years later. So it's if you don't have that discipline before you receive the money, and if you don't understand, kind of how to manage your cash flow, how to manage expectations, and it's going to come to bite you later on. And the earlier that you retire, the more years that you have to make that money last. So, somebody who's, maybe 65, 70 when they retire, they might only have a 20 or 30 year lifespan. If you're retiring at 30, 40, you have a long way to go, and that money is going to have to last you a long time. So you can't afford to make, bad mistakes or spend too much. You want to make sure that money lasts you.
Yeah. And I think when we think about, like, at the root of all of this is understanding who you are. So that's where I say, do some good old fashioned soul searching. Who are you? What are the things that you're passionate about? What do you value? What are the experiences or organizations or, things in your life that are very important that you want to be able to do? If you haven't spent, there's what we call life planning. There's Kinder questions. And he has 3 questions. One is, you have more money to take care of yourself, enough money to take care of yourself now and forever. What would you do? And describe that life. If you've written that life out in advance, you'll be much better prepared when this big windfall comes your way. And whether or not we're expecting a windfall, it's a good exercise for us all to go through to understand, like, what is it that we're really trying to accomplish so that we can use money as a tool to kind of live the life that we want. The second question on Kinder's questions is, you don't have unlimited funds. You're going to die in 5 to 10 years. How would you change your life? What do you need to do? And then the third question is, you only got 24 hours. What do you regret? What did you, not get to do? And so as you think about those things, if you start doing that kind of soul searching now, and you have real clear answers to those things, you'll know exactly who you are, a better idea of your identity, understanding your meaning and your purpose here on earth, and be much better equipped to deal with a big windfall than you would be otherwise.
Definitely. And I mean, I know I work with some clients who they might make a lot of money, but they're not necessarily happy with what they're doing. They're doing what they're doing because they make good money. There could be some jobs that you might want to do that you're passionate about, but, you wouldn't earn as much. And so a windfall like this could give you the flexibility to do a passion project or work in a job that you really enjoy, where you feel like your life is fulfilled and you don't have to worry about money.
I would work at the DMV, so I'm gonna just go ahead and put it out there. People think I'm insane, but
that's a really weird job.
If I hit for a lick, I would go work at the DMV because I just feel like they're so disorganized. Like, I love efficiency. Like, that is one of my key values in life, efficiency. And they're mean, they're grumpy, they're underpaid, and I would just show up and just be so excited to be at work and spread joy in people's life and help them get their license and their ID together. Like, if I get $1 gazillion, if you see me working at the DMV, you know that I hit the lottery, even if it was anonymous. That's what I'm going to go do.
Okay. I would not work for the DMV.
Where are you going to work, Chloe?
Well, honestly, I going back to I love what I do. I mean, if I could just go spread financial literacy for free and, just speak to people and, like at different women's shelters or, or schools, and help students like learn more about money. I think that would be something that, I wouldn't get paid for, but I would have the flexibility to do more of that.
I would do that too, but I would also work at the DMV. The other thing I was going to say as we talk about large handouts is this idea of, people kind of coming up out of nowhere and asking for your life-changing money. And so you mentioned earlier, athletes and entertainers and people that, I think a lot of the public will pass judgment on them, say, if I ever had 500 million, I would never be able to spend, I would never do that with my money. And it's easy to say what you could have, would, and shouldn't do. But everybody has people in their life that are not financially literate, and you yourself may not be financially literate. So whether you have $100 or $100 million, if you don't have literacy, you have the same vulnerabilities in either situation. And so you really want to be mindful of, what you don't know, and then the people around you who may also be taking advantage of you because what you don't know, or that, may not even think that they're taking advantage of you, but, they've had a hard life, they're struggling, and they see you have more than enough. If you got $500 million and 500 people, like, everybody became a millionaire overnight, but you broke. So $1 million doesn't go that far. Chloe and I know that because as financial planning, it's like, that's a number that we throw out there, and trendy narratives say that that's a lot of money, but that's not retirement money anymore.
No.
Yeah, so you can end up in a situation relatively easy if you are not being careful about how you handle the people around you who may know about your windfall.
Yeah, so I'd say as much as you can, try to keep a low profile and make sure you set boundaries. That kind of goes back to understanding what's important to you, understanding what you need, so that you can make sure that you're getting what you need to take care of yourself, your family. And if you have any flexibility to help other people and, set those boundaries and be clear. And that's something that, Lauryn and I see a lot, especially in communities of color. And I wrote an article about this that I could share in the show notes, but yeah, we have clients all the time who, they might make $150,000 or $200,000 a year. And, people think that's a lot of money, but once you're helping yourself, you're paying your student loans, you're paying your mortgage, you're trying to help family members, and everybody wants a handout. You could easily
setting up a college fund, right? You got some children, right? Those expenses are real.
So that money doesn't last, and just like that's not really as much money as you think it is. These some of these large windfalls might not be as much as you think it is once you add up all the costs.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, as I think about vulnerabilities too, the other thing that people bump into is like these sketchy business ideas. So, everybody's got hair. Everybody's gonna have to get their hair done. Me and Chloe got these cute top buns, but somebody want to cut our hair off. Like, oh, a barbershop. Barbershops are always going to be around. Guys are always going to need their hair cut, and you should open one because you just can't lose. If you don't know nothing about cutting hair, if you don't know nothing about running a business, if you don't know if your cousin Pookie can actually cut hair, or like you gonna fill up all these chairs, like there's so many things that can go wrong here, and that's not even a sketchy one. That is one of the less sketchy things. But there are tons of other things out there that are just business ideas, business deals, things that are gonna help you flip your money, and overnight you're gonna have double what you like. There's all these like little trendy negative terms that be careful, especially when it comes to like you got more money than you ever need. Like this is where you need to be thinking about your investment plan, and what you want to invest in, because you can probably do something really simple and never run out of money again. So why do something really complicated thinking that you have to make money, and all these other terms out there.
Yeah, I always tell clients, especially ones that, if they're an early employee at a tech company and they do receive this big windfall, I always say, if you won the game, stop playing. Like there's no reason to continue trying to make more and more and more and thinking that you're going to hit it big 2 or 3 times. Like this is probably a, once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. So, sit down, be calm,
right,
and do something pretty simple, and you'll never run out of money.
Yeah, I love that.
There's a good chance that you won't. So
that should be our quote. We do have a quote of the day, but we're going to add that to the quote of the day. If you won the game, stop playing. Like, go sit down somewhere.
Exactly. And the last thing, we kind of touched on this, but just make sure that you have a plan to make your money last. Review that plan regularly, because once you set the plan in the beginning, each year you're going to have to look at your spending. You're going to have to look and see, how much of your money do you have left? Can you continue on the same pace, based on how you've managed your portfolio? So that's something that you need to review on a regular basis and make sure that you're staying on track, so that you don't run out of money, and you can make this money last and hopefully pass it on to future generations.
Yeah, definitely. And we are all going to kick the bucket at some point, which leads us to estate planning. If you get this big windfall, don't let it go to waste because you don't have clear documents in place. You don't have, who do you want to receive these funds should you not be able to spend them all, which you shouldn't. Hopefully this money, like you said, will last your lifetime and for someone else's. We talk a lot about generational wealth and closing racial wealth divides and things like that. But to actually make those changes, you need to have proper documentation in place so that you can make the most of this money, and that it's not sitting in probate costing you a lot and you got tons and tons of fees because you didn't have a clear setup.
Yeah, exactly. So the next thing we want to talk about is just some pro tips, kind of things to look out for. If you're receiving a windfall of any size, and just some things that can maybe help you out a little bit. Having a budget, a goals, and a plan. If you have those things beforehand, you can probably see just through some of the things that we talked about, that really helps to put you in a position where when that money comes in unexpectedly, you know what to do with it, and you're not making bad decisions or rash decisions.
Yeah, because if you have the goals and you have the priorities, that money just slips right into that slot. Like, oh, I was saving up for a vacation. Oh, I haven't finished my emergency fund yet. It just drops right into that bucket and you keep on moving, and it doesn't have to become a really stressful, oh my goodness, what do I do kind of decision. And then you're thinking about all the things you want to buy and coulda, woulda, shoulda done. If you already have goals, plans, visions, and values, you're like, okay, this is where this money goes. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, try to get professional advice, especially if it's a larger windfall, but also be careful about who you hire. First of all, you want to make sure that you have a good financial planner, preferably fee only, and then also a CPA, so you can discuss taxes and if there's any tax impact from the payment set or the windfall that you receive. But just always think about how people are paid. And their motivation for giving you advice. If you're talking to someone who's paid commissions, their motivation is to sell you a product or whatever service that they're going to get a commission from. So that could kind of sway their advice, that they give you towards, buying that product or that service.
Yeah, and even the attorneys, like you said, when get in your crash or your healthcare settlement or whatever those sort of kind of mid-grade windfalls that come around, they get usually I think like 33.3%. Like they go like straight down, like 1/3 of the money is theirs. So just be mindful of that. Like it may be $100,000 settlement, but depending on what kind of settlement it is, there may be some taxes because it might be income, and then there's also 1/3 of it is not yours because of the attorney's fees. So those are things just to be mindful of, and make sure that you understand when you get into things, because you're like, yeah, like I'm gonna get, and then it's a $3,000 settlement. You get two, pay a little bit of taxes on it, and it became not very much of a settlement at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And another thing that we see too a lot is, this can kind of go both ways, but if you receive a lump sum settlement, sometimes, you might work with an insurance agent or someone that's commission based, and they might want to sell you an annuity to help, make sure that your money lasts and you have this, quote unquote guarantee. So that could be something that pays a really big commission, and it might not be the best thing that you need for your situation. On the flip side, if you receive a structured settlement and you have an annuity payout, from an accident or something, then there are companies that will sometimes try to get you to cash out. And so that basically gets rid of your monthly income stream, and they get a huge commission on the amount that you cash out. And that it could be a lot of money. Like if it's $100,000, to cash out your annuity, they might get 35 of it. So that's just something to be, kind of careful of, and make sure you're getting professional advice to make those decisions.
Definitely beware. And it's not all bad. We don't want to be, like I said, we always want to make sure to tell you we're not the Debbie Downer. So it is okay to treat yourself. You can do something fun. You can reward yourself. Like you said, if this is more than you're ever going to see in your whole life, like this may be a situation where you can change the way that you're living, but it's just important not to get carried away. So, maybe you can go from renting to purchasing a home, and you purchase that home outright or something. Doesn't mean you go from renting to buying an estate or buying a whole neighborhood. There's some in-betweens. There's some things you skipped along the way. So don't get carried away. Think about how this money can help you reach your long-term goals, and then start making your moves.
Yeah, definitely. And you could even set kind of rules ahead of time. Just if you understand that you might get, bonuses on a regular basis, or some other types of money that you might receive on a regular basis, think about what could I do with this money beforehand. So you might set a rule to say, any kind of unexpected money that comes in, I'm going to take 25% of it and spend it on something fun, and I'm going to save the rest of it, or put the rest in my different buckets to reach my goals. So just think about how you can kind of treat yourself a little bit and still be responsible with the money at the same time.
Yeah. I'd also say hit the pause button. Don't be afraid to be like, whoa, let me just take a deep breath. Like I'm super excited. The money arrived in my bank account last night, and it's not going to disappear if you don't spend it all tomorrow. It's okay to just like say, all right, what am I going to do? What do I want to be? Where, if you don't touch a dollar of it for the whole first year trying to figure out how to get it right, it's okay, because the day before you were probably doing all right, and the day after you're probably also going to be doing okay. So you don't have to do anything right away, and please don't make any major decisions immediately. Take your time.
Yeah, and even when you make purchases, of course, take your time, think about it, but understand the difference between investment assets and lifestyle assets. And what I mean by that is, a lifestyle asset is something that's going to require ongoing cash flow to maintain. So think about a house or a car, things like that, they require that ongoing cash flow to maintain. And so you could take this big lump sum and buy a house, but then you're going to have monthly expenses. Have you factored that in? And that's something I see sometimes on HGTV. They have this show, My Lottery Dream Home. And so they have people who win the lottery, and, it's like they might have won, $500,000, and they want to buy a $400,000 house. And I'm like, well, how, the house is paid for, but how are you going to pay the property taxes and the insurance and the maintenance? from year to year if you spend all your lottery winning. So that's just something, that you want to be careful about. And then
big
investment
house.
assets.
I was just going to say big house, big property taxes, right?
Yes.
Big property insurance.
Yeah. And with investment assets, those are things that are going to make you money over time. So you'll receive that. People talk about passive income all the time, and they immediately go to owning a physical property. But passive income at its best is having an investment portfolio, because you receive those dividends, you receive that interest on a regular basis. Your money's growing, so you have those increases in your assets over time. So that's something that's a lot different from having a property that you live in, or a car or other things that require cash flow to maintain.
For sure. Any closing thoughts as we kind of wrap it up here? I feel like we really did a good job of breaking down what to do if you have a small little windfall, a medium-sized windfall, or a really big life-changing windfall today. Definitely, if you all have questions, we always want you to reach out to us. But back to you, Chloe. Closing thoughts. What are you thinking about?
Not all decisions have to make financial sense. So just think about, things that bring you peace of mind. So if you have a mortgage, right now mortgage rates are super low. I have clients with 2.75% mortgage rates. It's not necessarily financially the best decision to pay off your mortgage immediately, but I mean that could help you sleep at night, to know that it's paid off. So just think about that, and try to make sure that if you understand your values and your goals and kind of what you want to accomplish, what brings you peace, then you can make better decisions with that money that you receive.
Yes, because peace of mind can be priceless, for sure. We also have a bunch of links we'll add to the show notes, because Chloe is a writer. I'm a podcaster because I don't like to write, but Chloe can write her behind off. So we got lots of articles that you can check out, and we'll add those to the show notes. Chloe, do you want to say anything about the articles that we'll be adding?
Yeah, so I do have an article about how to prioritize saving, investing, and paying off debt. So I figured that would be a little bit helpful for you. There's another article that I wrote about actually raises, so how to handle different raises, whether it's a small like cost of living adjustment or a pretty large raise. Some people have doubled their incomes, or they receive pretty large raises going from job to job, and how to handle that money. And then the third one was the one that I mentioned about just the obligations to help your family members and friends and everybody who asks for handouts. So I have some kind of tips and a process that I go through with clients who are dealing with that.
All right, we are ready to close out with today's money quote. Today, the quote, actually, I do the quote every time. Chloe, do you want to read the quote today?
Sure. So our quote for today is, "Wisdom with an inheritance is good, but wisdom without an inheritance is better than an inheritance without wisdom."
I love this. I mean, it just sums it up so well. So just to run it back, wisdom with an inheritance is good. So you get the money and you have wisdom, you're in a good place. Wisdom without an inheritance is better than an inheritance without wisdom. That was pretty much the premise of this show today, is that you can get the inheritance, but if you do not have the wisdom, you can squander that inheritance away. And we want you to know better so that you can do better. What do you think of when you hear this quote, Chloe?
Yeah, I think about, I had a really good conversation with a new client recently, and they have children, and I was asking them about, their opinions about leaving their kids an inheritance, or making sure their kids are kind of set, and leaving generational wealth. But the husband said something that really resonated with me. He said, "I really want to teach, all of those life lessons that you don't learn in school, and just how to be a good person, how to, give back to society, how to make sure that you're contributing to society." And he's like, if my kids inherit a lot of money, that's great, but I'd be happy if they inherited those life lessons from me, because that's more important.
I love it. And like you said, once again, one of those things that don't cost anything, but can be extremely valuable. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this topic. The next episode will be property and casualty insurance, which I know does not sound that exciting, but there's a lot of areas for room for improvement in this area. So like I said, Chloe and I do not sell insurance. We just want you to know better so that you can do better. And we're bringing on some experts as well to talk about this topic. So as always,
I was just going to say, yeah, we see a lot of things. Just think if you have a house and you rent out rooms, or you rent out the house for Airbnb. I've seen people rent their cars out on different services if they have like really nice cars. There's just so many different things that you don't think about where you could be exposed and not have enough coverage. So we wanted to make sure that we cover some of those gotchas.
Yes. So tune in for the next episode. And as always, if you have questions, suggestions for guests, or you would like to share your own money memoir, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at worth-listening.com. All right. Until next time. See you later, Chloe.
Bye.